I'm Beau Maddox with Robert Ortegon and Joseph Cantu. This is Collateral Cinema.
What makes you think you can bullshit your way into my head? Like every other pencil-neck piece of shit!
Welcome to Collateral Cinema, the only movie podcast that matters, where we focus on good movies, bad movies, and everything else in between in the world of cinema. We're coming to you straight from somewhere in South Texas, and yes, my friends, we are a 420-friendly podcast, so smoke 'em if you got 'em, my friends, smoke 'em if you got 'em. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the inaugural episode of Collateral Cinema, episode 01. Featuring the 2012 CGI disaster piece, Foodfight, directed by Lawrence Kasanoff, who apparently had the rights to some of the Mortal Kombat franchise for a while. He produced both of those movies, as well as a bunch of other related media, like that one animated Mortal Kombat movie, I think. But yeah, this movie is something to behold. It's kind of the bane of internet movie critics and reviewers everywhere, you know? I mean, it's something that just kind of comes once every generation. Like, last generation, it was The Room, and the generation before that, it was Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, this generation, it just so happens to be a CGI animated movie. And a very shittily animated movie, I might add. I mean, I have this movie on in the background right now. I'm looking right at it. I have the sound muted, but let me tell you, this is just something that, I mean, it defies explanation or description or anything that resembles a reason behind it. You know what I mean? I'm looking at this, I'm right here at the beginning of the movie, and it's just, it looks like there was no real effort put into it, or whatever effort there was, it was half-assed the rest of the way, which, if you know anything about the production history of this movie, is pretty much what happened, because at one point they had 60% of the movie actually made. They spent up to that point about $40-something million, I think. They eventually spent about $64 million, American dollars, on this film. And there are hard drives that had the files on them. The actual movie was stolen from their studio somehow. I mean, I don't know how that would really happen. They called it an act of corporate espionage. I think that was the euphemism they used for that. But whatever happened, they lost most of the work they did. They already had a bunch of different advertising icons in the movie. And the production just stalled from there, and about 10 years later, and after several of the original licensees, they dipped out on it. I mean, understandably, but another company eventually, I forget what their name was, they eventually took this movie and they enacted this, I think the shareholders enacted this clause in some type of contract clause which enabled them to make the movie and finish it very cheaply. And that was how we got to this. We got to Foodfight. Amazing, right, kids? But yeah, this movie also has an all-star cast that is kind of inexplicable. I mean, the lead character, Dex Detective, is played by Charlie Sheen, of all people. And this was originally, they casted him when he was originally at the height of his overall popularity. I mean, he was doing 2.5 Men. I mean, I think that maybe he did a couple of movies around this time. I don't remember what they were. But yeah, he put in a performance in here that is kind of phoned in. I mean, you could really tell. I mean, you compare it to perhaps Hot Shots, you know. I mean, compared to that, this right here is just bland. It's very, you know, if you catch my drift. But otherwise, I mean, it's also kind of inexplicable that they made him the lead in something like a child's comedy movie, you know? I mean, and a CGI animated one at that, because personally, I don't think that he's much of a voice actor, and honestly, it really, really shows here, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's just not a great performance, and you also had another person at the height of their popularity at the time was Hilary Duff. She was, I think she was Lizzie McGuire, I believe. I might be wrong on that. But she plays Sunshine Goodness, the girlfriend who has one of the creepiest fucking stares in a movie full of creepy stares. I mean, it's something to behold. And I'm looking at her right now, and they try to play her off as kind of cutesy. She's like a cat girl or something like that, but very humanoid, you know? And it just smacks of fetish feel. Her and the character Lady X, played by Eva Longoria, who at the time was coming off of Desperate Housewives. And her performance is so sexually charged, like in a very unnecessary manner, and it just adds a dimension to this movie that it's just very incongruous with what the movie is obviously trying to go for, you know. I mean, it's trying to very much be like Toy Story, but with advertising icons in a supermarket, you know. I mean, they had advertising icons such as Mr. Clean, Mr. Bubbles is in it, Twinkie the Kid, the California Raisins are in there at one point, the Hawaiian Punch guy, and they were slated to have a bunch of other icons in there, like the M&M's guys, the Coca-Cola polar bears, characters kind of that ilk. But, I mean, those were some of the licensees that dipped out after it went through the production hell that it went through. And it leads to a bunch of these characters that are obviously stand-ins for them, but they're also kind of like fuck yous against the companies that pulled their licenses, you know? Like the Chiquita Banana lady is this horrible Latin woman stereotype, like very horribly played. I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes in this movie. I mean, there's also a moose that's a very offensive Italian stereotype, and Dex Detective's friend Dan, the stunt pilot chipmunk squirrel thing, I think. I almost want to say he's a cat as well, but he's very nondescript like that. But he's kind of played like a very offensive black stereotype in many ways. And yeah, that's Wayne Brady's character. Wayne Brady, of all people. I mean, his performance is very sexually charged as well. He makes a bunch of cat calls that are just totally inappropriate. And, I mean, I don't want to sound prudish or anything, but for a kid's movie, I mean, this is just a little much. I mean, it's like Nostalgia Critic said, you know, fetish movie. You know, that whole thing. It totally is. And the characters totally purvey that. It's so inexplicable. I mean, I understand that there's other animated films like this that add a little bit of adult references and humor to kind of placate the adults in the room, but this goes very far beyond that. It's almost like it wasn't specifically made for kids. It was made for adults, but it still tries to play it off like a kids movie. I mean, don't get me on how that works, ladies and gentlemen, but here at Collateral Cinema, we intend to try to get to the bottom of all of this. I mean, like I said before, I'm currently watching it with the sound muted, and it's not so much distracting, it's just awe-inspiring in a way. Like, I just have to pause for a second to just watch this, just for a second, even with the sound off, just for a second. Well, that was more than a second, obviously, but I'm at the Mr. Clipboard scene, who is a character that is the centerpiece of this entire movie as far as I'm concerned. He's played by Christopher Lloyd, Doc himself, and oh my God, this character is so memorable. I mean, he walks in this really jerky and inhuman manner. He's almost dressed like this weird Rick from Rick and Morty kind of character, but even more twisted and demented than that. And Christopher Lloyd just chews scenery in this movie like it's nothing. I mean, his performance is the best in the movie, arguably next to Eva Longoria's even, you know? I mean, as creepy as her performance was, it was still pretty decent. I mean, there was phoned in some elements, but other than that, it really wasn't that bad. But there's other characters throughout this movie that we will discuss later on in the discussion part of our podcast. I mean, stay tuned for that, obviously. But this is really a movie that became kind of popular, so to speak, popular in quotes amongst the YouTube podcasting scene. I mean, everyone from Nostalgia Critic to JonTron to Animat to Lupa, Cinema Snob, and Felis, they all did some pretty memorable episodes on this alleged movie. and let me put the emphasis on alleged. Structurally speaking, this film just doesn't pass muster in any way. I mean, I get the film references that are in here. I mean, it's pretty much just Casablanca, just mixed in with Toy Story, but with advertising icons. That's literally it. It's that cut and dry. And I mean, it's just the characters that go all over the place. I mean, there are some film references here, but mainly it's just the Casablanca. Like, I'm looking at Dex's office. He has a parody of a 12 Angry Men movie poster. I think it's 12 Hungry Men or some such nonsense, but it definitely kind of tries to show some reverence to cinema of the past, but it also just kind of slaps all of it in the face, and also slaps modern animation in the face at the same time. I mean, it's a pretty amazing feat when you really look at it. And then that's not to mention, of course, you know, the animation. I mean, it's some of the worst CGI ever made. And of course, the script is all over the place. It's just awful. Still, it's something that I still find very entertaining. I don't find it so incredibly offensive that I don't want to watch it. Let's put it that way. I mean, I actually kind of get off on this sort of thing. I mean, I like bad movies, and there's a reason why we have, you know, the bad movies part in our tagline there, is because I do want to kind of explore films like this and just try to figure out the what and the why behind it, and some of the who behind it as well. I mean, and this movie is almost like a labyrinth. I mean, that's what it is. It's labyrinthine in so many levels. And oh my God, the shit weasel. Yeah, there's a shit weasel, ladies and gentlemen, and it's voiced by the director, Lawrence Kasanoff. It's like, yeah, thanks for that, buddy. Thanks for that. I mean, seriously, man, we totally just needed a glistening, walking shit pile of a character. That's just what we needed, apparently. But I digress. Anyway, here in a little bit, we are about to go into a movie synopsis for this supposed plot or something or another. I mean, I guess if you want to call it a plot, I mean, that's kind of charitable. I mean, like I said, alleged, in quotes, movie. Or let's put the movie in quotes. Because, yeah, this just doesn't fit into cinema in any way, but it's still kind of fun to watch because it's, for one, it's just so quotable. That's the one thing that it has going for it, is that it is quotable, and that's what makes it memorable. That and just the bad animation and the character design and development and everything. But in the end, I mean, you take Casablanca, it's just a pretty straightforward story. I mean, you can say they took it and made it into that. I mean, that's something, I guess. I mean, I don't know what else to say, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's something that seems like it could have worked on paper, but it just doesn't. But anyway, let's go ahead and get on with the show. Here is a movie synopsis via Wikipedia for Lawrence Kasanoff's Foodfight. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are spoilers ahead. Foodfight takes place in the Marketropolis supermarket. After closing time, the supermarket transforms into a city in which all the citizens are Ikes, personified well-known marketing icons. In the Ike's world, heroic serial mascot Dex Dogtective is about to propose to his girlfriend Sunshine Goodness, a raisin mascot, but she goes missing just before he is able to do so. 6 months later, in the real world, a Brand X representative called Mr. Clipboard arrives at Marketropolis and aggressively pushes Brand X's range of generic products. In the world of Ike's, the arrival of Lady X, the seductive Brand X detergent Ike, causes a commotion at Dex's club, the Copa Banana. Brand X products begin to replace previous products, which is mirrored in the Ike's world with the deaths of several of Ike's. After Dex's friend Daredevil Dan, a chocolate squirrel, disappears, Dex begins to investigate. After rebuffing Lady X's attempts to bring him to Brand X's side, Dex is locked in a dryer with Dan to be melted, but the two manage to escape. Dan and Dex find out that Brand X contains an addictive and toxic secret ingredient. Dex and Dan attempt to initiate a product recall with the store owner's computer. A Brand X Ike cuts power just as they send the message. Dex then rallies the citizens of Marketropolis to fight the armies of Brand X in a massive food fight. The citizens win the battle through cunning use of the supermarket's electricity and lightning rods to protect their own buildings. Dex rescues Sunshine, who had been held hostage at the Brand X Tower, and escapes with the help of Dan. Mr. Clipboard then enters the Ike's world, and it is discovered that he is a robot controlled by Lady X. Lady X reveals that she had previously been the hideous Ike of an unsuccessful brand of prunes, and had been stealing Sunshine's essence to create a new brand. Dex and Sunshine defeat her, reverting her to her original form. With Brand X defeated and a cure found that revives the killed Ikes, Dex and Sunshine finally marry.
He's dynamic. Oh boy! He's dramatic. He's the big dog.
Dex Dogtective is back in the house!
That always runs to the rescue.
I still got it.
Charlie Sheen is Dex.
When in doubt, just do the right thing.
With Hilary Duff.
Listen, tough guy, doesn't mean that I couldn't kick your butt.
Eva Longoria.
I've got a hot case for you.
Wayne Brady.
I'm your best friend, Daredevil Dan.
And Christopher Lloyd.
Somebody ordered a recall.
The super slick,
Got milk?
Do I look like the Dairy Queen to you?
super sleuth
Clean up on aisle 1.
is about to tackle
Yo, Dex! They're building an entire army.
his biggest case ever.
Let's get him! I do have an idea.
It's our world.
Food! I love this guy. Fight!
It's a battle between the world's most beloved brands and the forces of darkness.
Watch the tail.
Sorry, Charlie.
Taste that!
Cause it's our world. It's our world. It's my life.
It's checkout time. Great idea!
Foodfight.
This makes 500 cases you've solved. What's your secret?
The secret's inside.
All right, everybody, we are back. We are here with Robert Ortegon, and Joseph Cantu should be on his way shortly. And a few days ago, we saw the movie Foodfight. Yes, that Food Fight, the CGI-animated 2012 disaster piece. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this was a real shit fest. I mean, I can't really drive that home, like, any more than I can right now. I mean, seriously. I mean, Robert, what was your thoughts on the movie?
Okay, so I've never seen it I'm only seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
So, I guess it was all right. I mean, I love seeing movies for the first time, really.
Yeah, it's always a good experience.
Best way to see them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting that, really.
Yeah, needless to say, I mean, the animation itself, I mean, it was so lifeless for something that was always moving, right?
Yeah.
I mean, very lifeless. The backgrounds were really, really bland. I mean, our friend Frankie really liked it for some reason. I don't know, but I mean, it was something that really does not reflect the money that was spent on it. Right, Robert?
Yeah, you're right.
Definitely not. I mean, they spent $64 million on this movie, and it took them almost 10 years to finish it. And once they released it in 2012, I mean, they were originally going for a Christmas 2003 release, and they just really dropped the ball on so many levels here. I mean, what do you think?
First of all, I'm thinking, where did that money go to at the beginning?
I don't know. Yeah. Something tells me that it could have been some type of money laundering scheme for all I know. I mean, it did have a pretty prominent producer at the helm of it, Lawrence Kasanoff. I mean, he had the movie rights to the Mortal Kombat franchise for many years, and he actually produced those movies. But, I mean, it was very obvious that he was a little in over his head when he undertook this movie, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Now, I mean, what did you think of the directing of the movie? Of the direction of the movie?
I really have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of brings up a blank, right? When he was directing this movie, Lawrence Kasanoff had this really laissez-faire kind of approach to everything, you know? Like, he kept on telling the animators that he wanted things to be 30% better or more awesome or something vague or nonsensical like that. I mean, it's obvious that he had no experience and no business making a CGI animated movie. I mean, this was just a misfire on so many levels.
The whole thing just looked like a PlayStation 2 game, you know?
Yeah, a PlayStation 2 game. Yeah. Mostly. And not even a good PlayStation 2
for that time,
game at all.
Yeah, for that time. 2003, shit.
Yeah, I mean, even for 2003, I mean, there were some top releases at that time. I mean, wasn't Metal Gear Solid 2 already out by that point? I mean, there were some solid games on that platform, and to make a movie that's released 10 years later that doesn't look any better than that, I mean, that's such a slap in the face to animation fans, like, all over the place, really. I mean, are you a fan of animation, Robert?
Yeah, I am of some of them, especially like the animated Batman series.
Oh yeah, the animated Batman series was great. Yeah, talk about a great series, man. Kind of wish we could have watched that instead of this. But, you know, I had to subject everybody to this because it does hold a special place of infamy among YouTube and internet movie circles, especially amongst YouTube movie reviewers, you know, like Nostalgia Critic, CinemaStop, Fearless and Obscurus Lupa. They did an episode on this. So did Animat and Jontron. I mean, I'm sure you haven't really heard of most of those people, but they're very, very well known in YouTube movie review, in the YouTube movie review world. But, I mean, you can kind of see why it has that reputation. I mean, it kind of precedes it a little bit. There were many, many, many different characters also that were just unpacked very, very quickly, even from the first few minutes that we go into the Marketropolis world. Like, the first character, of course, is Dex Dog Detective. He's the main character. He's played by Charlie Sheen. And he looks like this strange mix between Indiana Jones and Gruff the Crime Dog. But his performance is... I don't really know where it was going, right? I mean, where do you think that he was coming from with that?
Dude... I'm thinking Harrison Ford when I see that guy.
Harrison Ford, it kind of had a Harrison Ford feel to him, but he was really playing Humphrey Bogart's part in Casablanca. I mean, this movie is straight up just Casablanca with a few rewrites here and there.
The man.
Humphrey Bogart was awesome, man. He was the man.
James Cagney, Humphrey Bogart. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Those guys are the man.
They were amazing actors, dude. And Charlie Sheen, I mean, he was at the height of his popularity when this movie, when he initially was hired to do this movie. I mean, he was still doing 2.5 Men. He had yet to have that whole controversy go down. And, you know, I mean, on paper, it seems like he would have been a good fit for this role, but I don't know what went wrong here. Like, what do you think went wrong with it?
You know what? I've only seen it one time, and I was just like, what's the whole point of this movie, almost? Yeah, I mean, there's no point to the movie or the characters, you know? Like, I mean, Dex was very pointless as a lead character. I mean, he even, like, gave up after not even a month of trying to look for his girlfriend. I mean, it's like, how useless can you be? And then you divert your attention to opening a club? It's like... What the hell? That's like not even 6 months. You're like not even mourning or anything.
And he's supposed to be this great dog detective. Yeah, I don't get that either. That's a bad pun. It's like dog detective.
Listen up, fat cat burglar. I'm giving you one last chance to hand him over before I cash in your coupons for you.
It is you, the great Dex Dog Detective, who's about to take a fall. Or should I say, be pushed.
If I had a raisin for every time I've heard that one.
Exterminator!
Hey, hairless hamsters. Want some of this?
My mother would be so ashamed.
Okay, it's just you and me, fat cat. Now fork over the little guys and no one gets hurt.
Never!
I'm sending you to the cooler, burglar.
I'm gonna kill you! No! Stop! You wouldn't! I just want to be loved. Is that so wrong?
Yeah. And his girlfriend's name is Sunshine Goodness. She was played by Hilary Duff, who was all of 15 years old at the time. And let me tell you, a lot of her dialogue, especially with Dex Dog Detective, played by Charlie Sheen, it's very, very creepy. Like, I mean, didn't it just kind of make you want to take a shower afterwards? Like,
it's like weird because your character was like a human, half cat.
Yeah, half cat human. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even an actual cat. You know, she was like a cat girl. She was like a furry character, essentially.
No.
Like, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the furries and their whole culture and everything, but, you know, they have a lot of anthropomorphized characters in that community, and it kind of feels like that's what they were trying to kind of appeal towards, you know? I mean, it's easy to do that. I mean, there's a lot of properties that are actually like actual video games and movies that do kind of, you know, they cross over into that community, but not as blatantly as this one does, you know? It's not nearly as blatant. And then there's just the way that she was animated.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you saw how her eyes were just completely vacant, blank, like not even looking at anyone or anything, not even looking at the characters.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I swear to God, these two characters, Dex and Sunshine, they would just straight up like interact for a good minute and a half or 2 minutes, and I swear they never actually look at each other. Like not even once.
The whole time. Exactly.
Not even once the whole time. I mean, it's just this weird uncanny valley thing that kind of just permeates the entire film. And that's especially true with Daredevil Dan, the squirrel chipmunk thing that's supposedly made of chocolate and is Dex's best friend. I mean, he's played by Wayne Brady, and you can definitely see the token black stereotype just bleeding off of this character, literally. I mean, it's pretty blatant and kind of maybe mildly offensive, kind of. Towards black people?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's very insensitive. I mean, and it does kind of have that whole, you know, old school, you know, Bojangles type of feel to it, you know? It's kind of, you know?
Like comedian stand-up or something?
Yeah, like Al Jolson or something weird like that.
Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. And yeah, they had their own little, you know, bailiwick when it came to that sort of humor, but here it's just very forced, very out of place, and it's just very misinformed, you know. And of course there's the whole thing where, you know, he's supposed to be a pilot, but he's crashing every 5 minutes here. I mean, this character should not be flying anything. I mean, honestly.
They gave him a license? I can't believe
it. They gave him a license. Like, I assume that there's a bureaucracy in this world that they can give licenses to for piloting and driving and whatnot. I mean, as far as I know, that there were other vehicles in this world, as far as I can remember. But even then, I'm not entirely sure. Like there was a hot air balloon. There was what else? There was a Wonder Bread truck at one point. But yeah, I mean, that's what was weird about all of that. But yeah, the main villain, or villainess, I should say, of this movie is Lady X, and she's played by Eva Longoria, who is then Eva Longoria Parker. She was married to Tony Parker back in the day. You know, go Spurs, go!
Go Spurs!
Go Spurs!
Ginobili, better hit them threes.
Yeah. But anyway, she plays very much a femme fatale character, kind of in the classic sense of the term, you know?
Yeah, when I saw her character, I was thinking like Beast Wars or something.
Beast Wars, exactly. Yeah, I mean, she had this very weird kind of reboot-like feel to her, but like done very, very, very badly. I mean, believe me, folks, this is nowhere near reboot when it comes to quality. And that especially goes for the characterization and the development there. And this character, she was so ill-developed, you know? She wasn't developed correctly, I think, you know? I mean, yeah, I mean, you kind of get the whole feel that she's the main villain, that she's going to be the big bad here, but even so, it just doesn't feel like it's coming from any place that's sincere or truly, you know, wicked or anything like that. It's like she's just doing it out of petty jealousy and nothing more, and sometimes that can be a motivating factor, but here it just doesn't make sense at all.
No, it don't.
It's like, okay, so I mean, apparently she was, spoiler alert, she was this prune mascot who was a little ugly, needless to say, and she got plastic surgery to become a vixen. And I understand that, she was jealous of Sunshine Goodness and all of that, but honestly, it still doesn't feel like a good motivating factor for her to go through all of this, especially through the level of pretty much putting together her own Nazi army to do this.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there are Nazis in this movie, ladies and gentlemen. And this came out in 2012. Kind of an interesting predictor of current events, needless to say. Like, who do you think would be the Donald Trump character in this?
Holy crap.
Probably Mr. Clipboard. Fucking Mr. Clipboard. Yeah, I mean, I almost expect Trump to just start kind of walking like that, and talking like that out of nowhere.
Jesus.
Yeah. But enough politics. There's also Lieutenant X, he's the sidekick for Lady X, and he's played by Tim Curry. Yeah, Pennywise himself. And honestly, he gives a good performance here, to tell the truth. I mean, what do you think?
You know what? I honestly need to watch the movie again.
Like, you remember which character Tim Curry was. He was the green face character, but...
Oh, yeah, he looked like the Illuminati.
Yeah, he looked like a lieutenant for Illuminati, Nazi...
regime.
Army, yeah. He totally fit that character, but he was also this very creepy, fetishy kind of character. Like, he felt like he was strictly a conduit for Lawrence Kasanoff's fetishes and nothing more. Like, him and Lady X in Sunshine Goodness.
Hold it right there, or Blondie gets it.
Watch out! On your knees, dog. I always knew you were damaged goods.
I'm not the one who's gonna be puppy whipped. You cold-farted itch.
Like Christopher Lloyd, too.
Christopher Lloyd, yeah, to a degree, but I mean, Christopher Lloyd, that's another character, Mr. Clipboard, who I think is like the centerpiece of this movie. He is absolutely the centerpiece in every which way, just from his very first appearance on screen. I mean, he's the most captivating part of it, and even then, it's still it's still very shitty animation, but it's memorable. You can at least say it's memorable, Like, you remember how he was just like, I'll make space. Like, I mean, we both work in a grocery store, ladies and gentlemen, so that had an extra little bit of humor for us,
Exactly.
I mean, it's not entirely accurate about how it is to work at a grocery store. We don't have just one person for one entire market there, and we don't mourn product whenever it's smashed or anything. We just like, oh, son of a bitch, let's clean it up, But I mean, I don't think that accuracy was ever a point of this movie.
Pretty much just like random.
Yeah.
Everything just thrown together.
Yeah, very random. And that brings us to the advertising icons, which was very much the reason for this movie's existence. They were basically trying to make like a Toy Story type movie, but with supermarket icons and advertising icons in a supermarket.
Right in the opening scene, right?
Yeah, right in the opening scene. I mean, you had the characters that made it into this movie, because originally they had a bunch of different licenses for different characters, but due to the production hell that it went through and the fact that so much money was sunk into it, eventually, I mean, a lot of them kind of jumped ship. I mean, the ones that made it into the movie was like Mr. Clean, who actually becomes the centerpiece of a few scenes that are still very much throwaway scenes, like that whole ball joke whenever they're out there looking at all the dead icons. That the mayor says like, I'm gonna lose my hair, and then Mr. Clean just grabs his head and looks in shame. It's like, not that bald isn't beautiful. It's like, oh my god, man. It's like, did y'all put him in there just for that? Like, was that it? It's like, come on now. I mean, and also Mr. Bubbles is in this goddamn movie all of a sudden. Like, I mean, what the hell? Why Mr. Bubbles?
No idea.
I mean, I understand that he's a well-known advertising icon for a well-loved product, but I wouldn't call him exactly relevant, right?
Yeah.
He's not the most relevant character. I don't even think we sell Mr. Bubbles in our store.
Oh, we don't. Most of Fabulous, whatever.
Yeah. I think it was a bubble bath. That's what it was. So it'd be in the health section.
Bubble bath.
Yeah, it's like a bubble bath. Yeah. But also, Mrs. Buttersworth was in this as well, like the syrup lady. It's like, I mean, I think for obvious reasons they probably didn't go with Aunt Jemima.
We put all that stuff on the shelf.
Yeah, we stocked Mrs. Buttersworth, excuse me. And I mean, I guess it's an okay product. I mean, I don't know. I don't really eat pancakes that much, or waffles.
More of a French toast guy myself.
Yeah. And of course, Charlie Tuna was in this from Starkist. He was actually butt of a joke in one scene. I think it was Lady X stepping on his fin.
Oh,
and she's like, "Sorry, Charlie." And it's like, oh, just face palm right there. It's like, oh, god damn it. What the hell? I mean, I've never even been that much of a fan of canned tuna in any way. So I've never liked it. It's always been very metallic tasting and ugh.
It tastes like a can.
Yeah, it tastes like a can. Exactly. It tastes like meaty chunks of can. But it's kind of funny that they got him in this movie, I mean, I guess he's recognizable enough,
Yeah. Everybody knows who he is. Right?
Yeah. And then they have the Vlasic stork because of course, I mean, because who doesn't love pickle mascots, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I eat pickles from time to time. I just don't necessarily eat Vlasic,
Vlasic.
Yeah, with the stork and everything.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And Twinkie the Kid is briefly in this movie. The goddamn mascot for Twinkies. Very briefly. Yeah, and also the California Raisins make a appearance here, which was actually kind of cool because they were still singing "Heard It Through the Grapevine." I mean, it was a good little throwback to an '80s property. A good little reference there. But other than that, not a particularly well animated. Well, nothing in this movie was well animated, but the California Raisins especially. It's like, man, they should have just stuck with the stop motion animation, man, the claymation. Right?
I like Gumby better, yeah.
Wouldn't this whole movie have been better as a claymation movie?
Yeah.
It could have actually worked as a good little claymation.
Should have gave the project to Tim Burton or something.
Yeah, right? Or the guys behind Corpse Bride or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he made that movie, right?
Corpse Bride, and Caroline, all that.
Coraline,
yeah.
That's studio... I forget what the name of that studio is.
James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah. That's good stuff as well. It really is. And the Hawaiian Punch guy, who's in all of one scene. He's so pointless.
For a brief second.
It's like, seriously, the whole point is to make this Toy Story with advertising icons, but they don't matter. They just don't matter at all here. They don't even make up the main cast. And there were a lot of icons here that were originally slated to be in this movie, but they pulled their licenses out, because of the long production schedule, like I mentioned before. And they were originally going to have the M&M's characters, you know, like Billy West's character in that, which would have been great if they would have got Billy West on this. I mean, they already have a lot of veteran voice actors here. You know, Ed Asner was on there. Who else? I think... man, I can't really think of anybody else. But there were some other well-known voice actors in this movie. But that would have been cool to have Billy West. I mean, he was Fry from Futurama. He was...
Oh, man,
yeah. Yeah, he was Ren and Stimpy, I think. I think he was just Stimpy, though. He may have just been Stimpy. But, yeah, that would have been great. And they also were supposed to have the Chiquita Banana Girl.
Yeah.
You know, but she was replaced by a very obvious XP who's this kind of more overweight Latina lady with the fruit basket on her head and everything. And, yeah, she was not a very flattering portrayal of Latin American people either. Needless to say. I wouldn't call that fucking... I wouldn't call that very sensitive. And Little Debbie was supposed to be in this, but I think that, you know, there's that scene where Daredevil Dan was trying to hit on that one lady icon. That was supposed to be Little Debbie. But, I mean, I guess that they just kind of objected to that, you know? They just kind of objected to that. Also, the Coca-Cola Polar Bears were supposed to be in this movie. That would have been interesting. I still don't know what the hell they would have done.
Yeah.
You know?
Coca-Cola Bears.
I mean, like I said, none of these icons matter. The entire premise of the movie doesn't even matter.
Like the Pillsbury Boys. That would be cool if that was in
The
there.
Pillsbury Doughboy, I'm not surprised if they would have had that.
I mean, that's classic icon.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I know they were going to have Ernie the Elf from the Keebler Elves. You know, they were going to have them as well. There's a scene with some XPs of the Keebler Elves, but they, of course, they dropped their license. And the Brawny guy, the guy from the Brawny paper towels logos, he was supposed to be in this, but, you know, they pulled out. And, of course, there's another scene where he supposedly fights this Viking character. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but I mean, it's just some stupid little throwaway joke, you know. Once again, they don't matter. None of this matters.
When you feel your heart go like a bass drum, boom, 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 you'll remember the snap for the rest of your life. The smell of my sweet perfume, hip, so hip, from my head to my toes to my fingertips, hot, so hot. And I know
Sorry, Charlie.
I'm the owl in wow, the cat meow, the kaboom in pow, and I'm here right now.
Of all the produce bars and all the supermarkets in all the world, she had to walk into mine.
Hey, what's going on? Ladies and gentlemen, Joseph Cantu has just entered the studio.
Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, man.
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's up?
Yeah, we are talking about Foodfight. We're talking about all the different characters that were in this movie. We were talking about Vlad Chakul, the bat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what did you think of that character, man? Like he was trying to hit on.
Oh, yeah, it seemed like he was a little furry out there.
Yeah, he was a little bit, I guess you could say. I mean, he was
definitely into chocolate.
Oh, way into chocolate, like creepily into chocolate. And then there was also just the Brand X army in and of itself. You know, like they were straight Nazis.
Oh, yeah. You can tell. They were resembling something.
They were resembling something.
The Nazi march or a Russian.
If you want to call that a march.
German.
I mean, whenever the soldiers were marching, they would do this weird little hand gesture, like make an X or something.
Almost
like that.
Chinese kind of.
Yeah, it was very much like a North Korean march, just dumber, you know? Just way dumber.
Hip hop, crisscross.
Yeah.
Pop, lock, and drop.
And then there was we had the potato chip pirate guy. That's just what I have him listed as.
Eat chips.
Like, he had a speaking part in this for a little bit, and he actually tried to challenge Lady X, but once again, he was so pointless. I mean, we just said earlier that, none of this matters. Nothing in this movie matters.
Of course not. You can tell by the profits.
Yeah. Seriously. But, of course, probably one of the better characters, who is actually still the slimiest character, was Cheezel T. Weasel, the shit weasel.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, if you're the director and producer, I'd make me the best character too.
And that's not saying much, because this character is so slimy and just so...
like a wet turd.
Yeah, literally. He's like a walking turd. He's like a walking piece of shit, right?
Fucking weasel. Yeah.
Fucking shit weasel. And it was voiced by Lawrence Kasanoff, the director and producer of this so-called alleged movie. Yeah, alleged in quotation marks.
So he's the one.
He took the money. He took all the money.
He took all the money. He's the guilty party. That's right, Lawrence Kasanoff.
Bahamas. Come on, Eva Longoria.
Come on, Eva Longoria.
Come on, you tits. You got it.
Yeah, but that character was supposedly a reference to Peter Lorre's character in some movie. I'm not really sure what it was. I don't think I've seen that movie, but that's supposed to be some kind of movie reference. I don't know. If anybody wants to comment or tell us what that movie is, feel free to do so in the comment section. So what do y'all think was the best character in this film, and what was the worst character?
I like the freaking evil villain.
The evil villain,
crazy walk, Tourette's walk.
Oh, you mean Mr. Clipboard?
Uh-huh.
That was played by Christopher Lloyd, and yeah, that's a memorable fucking character. The most memorable character out of the whole series,
May I help you? You must be Leonard, the manager. I'm your new Brand X representative. I wasn't expecting any new products. A corporate picture store to test the new Brand X detergent with Alexa. Brand X, huh? Never heard of it. Give us 1 week. Your customers won't know how they lived without Brand X. Well, everything is so nice the way it is. We don't have space. Oh, I'll make space.
Oh my god. Yes, we have a little Chihuahua dog barking in the background.
You're right about the dog.
Yeah, that dog is she's nothing gets past her. No, nothing gets past her at all.
Just like a woman.
All right, now throughout this entire movie, a lot of the dialogue was very sexual in its nature. Lots of innuendo here, right?
References, yeah.
All the references, for instance, the whole relationship between Dex Dog Detective and Sunshine.
Yep.
Goodness.
Very seductive.
Very seductive, and you have to remember, this was a 15-year-old girl that was voicing this character, and her stuff gets very uncomfortably flirty. Uncomfortably so.
Well, the character looked a little older.
Yeah, but even so, I just can't imagine being in the vocal booth or in the control room recording that,
Yeah.
That had to have
Parents
been.
have to say something about it.
You would think so, but that's a whole issue in its own right,
They say, just sign the check over to me.
Yeah, that's an issue in Hollywood that could be its own episode in its own right. But, the sexual innuendo was just so, slimy and all.
It was out there.
It was all over the place.
Many times.
Right, Robert?
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. And also, Lady X.
Kind of feel uncomfortable the whole time a little bit.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable, and this was supposed to be in a children's movie.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't let my daughter see it.
Give my money back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
This movie's shit.
It's this movie's shit, and it's inappropriate for my kids, and I paid $8.50 to see this in the theaters. What the fuck? No, I actually paid $9.99 for this. $9.99 in American dollars for this goddamn movie.
Worst thing you ever spent your money on, probably.
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure that there's some other things that qualify there.
That'll be another session.
That will be another session, man. But yeah, there was that scene where Lady X interrupts Dex Dog Detective, and they do their first little dance and everything. When he spills the milk, everything.
Yeah.
And if you notice, there's a record scratch there, but She's not holding a record. She's holding a CD player. How do you do a record scratch on a CD player? Just, one of those little details that just kind of undercuts the stupidity of this movie. But, I mean, Lady X, her sexuality was just all over this movie.
That was the main character, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. She was the main villainess. She was even the one piloting Mr. Clipboard.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck, people? But, it made for this really uncomfortable love triangle that just really shouldn't have been in the movie, I think.
I think they're just trying to fill in space.
Yeah, there's a lot of filler in this movie, and yeah, you can definitely tell that the more fetishy sexual scenes, they were kind of that filler. They were there to pad the movie out. Overall, as far as the technical aspects and the story and everything, like, first of all, let's start with the technical aspects. The sound mixing in this movie is just as bad as the animation. Just as bad as it, right?
Oh, yeah.
I heard
low budget PlayStation 1 worse.
Yeah. there was better audio and better visuals on PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games. We were just talking about that earlier. There were times where I heard, like, some of the characters were obviously recorded in a different place than other characters were.
Not in the same room, like, interacting, really.
Yeah, they weren't interacting. You could tell that a lot of them were recorded at different studios of different quality.
Put together.
It's like, where's the acting? Are you just reading this?
Yeah, one's looking towards the sky and the other one's looking towards the sky the other way.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. It makes very little sense at all. It's like, who fucking mixed this shit? I'm an audio engineer myself. I'm always listening for stuff like that.
It's more like a gaming kind of setup.
Yeah, in a way, it's more like gaming, kind of, sort of. But, there was just no excuse for the quality of that, or the animation itself, which is, like, just subpar. I've seen worse. But, even compared to some of the stuff you see from, like, Illumination, your Sing, your Despicable Me's and everything,
details are basic.
Yeah, that wasn't even close to that.
Their arms would move the same way for each character at the same time.
Yeah, that was because they switched over from just straight CGI animation to doing this weird motion capture thing. And it was not particularly well done. It's like, my God, were y'all using like a Kinect or something like that? An Xbox Kinect to film this shit?
Jesus.
That's notorious for its wonkiness, But, that was done when motion capture hadn't been perfected yet. It was bold to kind of take that approach, but it still just didn't work out. It was too...
I think they would have did better with the picture book.
Yeah, they would have done way better with a picture book. Seriously. And then, the story itself, I don't know, like I said, it's Casablanca, essentially, with just some...
Indiana Jones.
Some extra rewrites, a little bit of Indiana Jones thrown in there. I guess that comes in whenever they go into the supermarket during the daytime or something like that. Which still, they never really explain how that works, ever. Nothing is explained in this movie, It's like, where do the characters in Foodfight fit into God's plan? Where do they fit into God's plan, guys? It's like, you would think that God has some type of plan for them, right?
Refrigerator, keep them in the fridge.
Keep them in the fridge, yeah, that's pretty much it, But,
Shit.
There's so many inconsistencies in the story, like, and also so many obvious things that are kind of telegraphed. Like, for instance, when Sunshine Goodness is kidnapped, it's like, they couldn't have made that any more obvious.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when she was running off, it's like...
Skip to that whole scene.
Yeah, when they ran off, it's like, we're not going to ever see her again, are we? It's like, nope, we're not going to see her till later in the movie. And then there were just the Casablanca elements, which were just shoehorned in there, and honestly, I don't know any kid nowadays that's going to know what the fuck that is, I
don't even know what the hell that is. I know I've seen it, but I changed the channel over.
Casablanca is kind of a very classic movie.
Oh, yeah, I remember it. I would always change it.
Old school black and white. You need to watch more black and white movies, dude. Yeah, you do. We are going to have some black and white movies. You got something with
black and white.
Yeah, they're good movies, man. Like, seriously, I have primo black and white movies in my collection. But, yeah,
Well, Twilight or Hitchcock is what I used to watch a lot of.
Hitchcock? Hell yeah, Hitchcock is great, man.
Master Theater or something.
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, yeah, Rear Window, fucking Psycho.
There's a lot of his black and white.
Yeah. Oh, we'll be talking about that pretty soon, you know. I mean, this right here, this is just get this out of the way, you know, just to
this is definitely
get it out
the
of
last
the way,
time
you know?
we'll be talking about this one.
Oh, yeah. We might reference it later.
Spoiled Food Fight.
Yeah, but yeah, the story is essentially Casablanca, and then the whole Toy Story element doesn't even really work, like we mentioned. Like, for instance, they don't really go into how the world of the market changes from a supermarket to the city from day to night and back. And there's that scene where Dex and Daredevil Dan, they actually go out into the supermarket during the day, and they never explain any of this.
Yep, I figure it was just a kid watching.
Yeah, I mean, but even so, to me, that's not an excuse. I mean, there's some really good and engaging children's
Especially
programming.
for the amount of money they spent on it.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Lego movie.
Oh, yeah.
That movie is, like,
the Emoji
superb.
movie is better than that.
Oh, man.
It honestly is a lot better than that.
Don't get me started on the Emoji movie. The Emoji movie was at least competent compared to this. And that's not saying that the Emoji movie was an even bigger product placement than this movie, and which was all this movie was. It was just product placement. That's all there really
all
was,
digital.
man. Yeah, it was all kinds of ridiculous, man. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this movie, it's bad.
By far, thumbs down.
Thumbs down all the way. Like, I mean, Robert, what on a scale of 1 to 5, what would you give this?
Probably not even 1.
Not even a 1?
Probably like half a 1.
Seriously, like half a star here.
Half a star.
Jesus Christ, yeah, thumbs down all the way. I still find it somewhat entertaining, even for what it is. But I'm the kind of person that I could sit down and watch bad movies and get off on them, you know?
Me too.
Like seriously, like my favorite movie is The Room, which is, the king of bad movies. I mean, who doesn't love The Room? I mean, we all know it's a huge pile of shit, but it's just so hilarious and memorable that it stands on its own, and this movie's kind of like that.
Yeah, it definitely stands on its own.
Yeah, it stands on its own in many, many, many different ways. So yeah, I maybe give it like at least a 2.5, maybe. How about you, Joseph?
I'd say about a 1.5.
1.5? So I guess I'm being the charitable one here.
So you're almost saying it's halfway good.
Oh, Mr.
Halfway good. I would say it's halfway competent. That's about it. Barely even that.
Yeah, I give it a thumbs down.
Thumbs down all the way. Yeah.
Siskel and Ebert.
Siskel and Ebert, man. Oh, man, I don't even want to know what Siskel and Ebert would have given this
They
movie.
just walked out and didn't even score it.
They probably would have. And I mean, Ebert even reviewed Freddy Got Fingered and had some pretty terrible things to say about that film, So, I mean, I would have loved to have seen what Ebert or Siskel or Roper would have said about all of this,
Dex Dogtective. I've already heard so much about you.
I'll gossip.
My favorite kind.
That scent. Something familiar.
My secret ingredient. You like it?
It's amazing.
Yo, baby! Who's your sugar daddy? Hands up.
Hold your anchor. There be something dirty about this detergent.
Now, is that any way to talk to a lady?
You got something to say, Candy Arse?
Yeah, Salt Lick, you can kiss my additives.
We're not leaving till this here wench tells us why her rep stomped me poor bag.
Is it really my fault you have inferior packaging?
Yeah, bro, you ain't exactly new and improved.
Spuds for you.
But yeah, folks, that's Food Fight. That is our episode. We are now on Stitcher. By the way, I just got the confirmation today. We're going to be on Stitcher. We are on SoundCloud. We are on Podbean. You can also find us on Facebook and on Twitter. And soon we will have an iTunes feed, if not already. I'll just have to check and make sure. And find us on Patreon. We will have an exclusive commentary track for this movie, Food Fight, on there at like the $5 level starting. So if you want to maybe help us out a little bit and maybe check out a fun little full-length commentary track for this, once again, this alleged movie, it's like, come and check us out. Anything else, guys? Anything you want to add?
That's it. Until next time, we got Halloween coming up.
Halloween, yeah, that's right. We're going to take on John Carpenter's Halloween series. We're going to go ahead and mainly focus on the first film, but we are going to kind of go through the whole series. I mean, it's got a lot of different continuities to it. You know, it's had a few reboots, and even has a couple of movies that doesn't even have anything to do with the series altogether. At least one. Yeah, the third one. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate it. The intro track is a license-free beat by Dark Sun, and you can find him on Twitter at Dark Sun. Come and give us a good review, give us a like, give us a download, and we will see you later. Collateral Cinema out.
Later, guys.
Collateral Cinema is an L Company production.